What's up, Thrashers, and welcome back once again to the Thrash Maniac 99 YouTube channel, and I am back with yet another album review, and today I am talking about the latest offering from Harakiri for the Sky, Scorched Earth. This comes out on January 17th on AOP Records, not Authors of Pain for you wrestling fans. If only that was the name of the label, that would be a lot cooler, but I digress. But anyway, so this is the latest offering from Harakiri for the Sky. So this is a band I have heard the name over the years, but I've never listened to them. So for those who don't know, Harakiri for the Sky is an Austrian blackgaze slash post-black metal band. Then again, you know me and black metal, I'm very, very picky about black metal. Like, I want to hear riffs rather than constant tremolos and stuff like that. I am going to go ahead and go out on a limb and say I was pleasantly surprised and impressed with this album. Like, the way... Okay, so thus far with all these blackgaze and post-black metal bands, it's been kind of hit or miss, more hits than misses. This one, I will go ahead and say, I think it hits pretty damn hard. So we kick things off with Heal Me, which has this duality of pianos and atonal melodies. And for the most part, this song's kind of more on the doom side of things. And I might have kicked the camera over a little bit, but whatever. Anyways, and this song was probably the doomiest track of the album, as well as having a little bit of like a gothic overtone on top of everything. I gotta say, the vocals on this album definitely sound like the guy's being tortured or he's pleading for some kind of salvation. And I kind of like the vocals on here where it just kind of sounds like agony and anguish and just pleading for something to be good in the man's life. But yeah, the vocals immediately hit an impact on this album. But this track, I gotta say, from top to bottom, all of the clean melodies, like, that's one of the big things of this album, is the beauty of the clean melodies, which, of course, from what I know with blackgaze or post black metal, is that clean melodies is kind of a given when it comes to both genres, because they like to do a lot of dynamics as well as like a lot of peaks and valleys within the song, in terms of like it goes from being quite heavy and loud to like really quiet and soft. And I gotta say, the tremolos and the blast beats top to bottom throughout this album were pretty well done, and they never got boring for me, because that typically can be a bit of a thing with black metal, is that if they just drone on the same tremolo and blast patterns, it can get pretty boring after a while. Thankfully, they never do get boring, and they always change things up, whether it be changing the rhythm up, or maybe tweak the melody a little bit, or just afterwards go into something completely different. And I like how in Heal Me, it gets into these nice gallops, and for the most part, when it comes to lead work on this album, it's pretty much lead melodies, not like straight up true blue solos. But one thing that definitely struck me, actually, with the entire album itself, is how it can go, like I said, through all those dynamic shifts and all the different changes, where it can go from soft, quiet beauty to like huge and heavy sounding. Like, I gotta admit, the production on here, while it might be a little bit more polished than I was expecting, it still sounds like human beings playing. It doesn't sound like electronic or anything like that, which is a good thing. But pretty much as far as like what else you get on these tracks, like in Keep Me Longing, this is where really it starts getting darker in tone. And this song, it gets into like triplet rhythms with blast beats, but then also getting into like grooves. But the riffs and the atmosphere and the melodies on this track made me think of early Catatonia, like Dance of December Souls, Brave Murder Day, like that period of Catatonia when they started out as a death doom band. that's kind of what this track reminded me of. It's like a more blackened version of early Catatonia, a little bit. Without You, I'm Just a Sad Song. This one, actually, I would say this, as well as I Was Just Another Promise You Couldn't Keep. This is where you start to get a little bit of nods to punk and post-hardcore. Like in Without You, I'm Just a Sad Song. Like the rhythm's kind of more classic metal, but the riffs at the beginning are a little more punk, whereas with I Was Just Another Promise You Couldn't Keep, for the most part, it was top to bottom like post-hardcore inspired songwriting. But what I do like more about Without You, I'm Just a Sad Song, there are little classic metal nods in like the clean melodies, the bass and the rhythm section. Wonderful. No Graves But the Sea. I would say No Graves But the Sea, and then into With Autumn, I'll Surrender. Both of those songs back to back were probably two of the best when it came down to the execution of the melodies, whether they be the clean melodies or the tremolo melodies, but also lots of groove. And this was really where in the second half of the album, groove starts becoming more prominent, particularly on those two tracks, as well as I Was Just Another Promise You Couldn't Keep, but also a dissonant riff at the beginning of I Was Just Another Promise You Couldn't Keep. But with Autumn, I'll Surrender, more notable melodies, but also awesome drum flare and a great bass line on top. And then the closer, which I think was one of the most beautiful songs on the album, Too Late for Goodbyes. Big triumphant triplet march or swing with blasts and riffs. Almost reminds me a lot of Bathory a little bit. And then probably one of the big standout moments of the album, the clean melodies and female vocals, kind of made me think of Agalok a little bit, like with the melodies. And while these were done female vocals, she kind of reminds me of like a lady version of John from Agalok. So kind of made me think a little bit of like The Mantle or even Pale Folklore a little bit. So it was like, nice little nod right there. But it was a beautiful song to end this album. So really overall, I guess the only thing I have to complain would be I do wish there could have been a little bit more in terms of standout heavier riffs. But when they do get heavy, it is notable, but I do wish there could have been more. But overall, I actually thought this was great. For my first time listening to this band, like I said, I was pleasantly surprised. I'm going to give this 4 out of 5. So right off the bat, best black metal album thus far, even though we're only a few weeks into the new year, but this was some pretty damn good stuff. No complaints otherwise. But of course, those are just my opinions. What did you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe, all that fun stuff. But until next time, keep your horns high and your dreams wet.